Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that's as gripping as it is unbelievable. A man who went to the extreme of faking his own death just to escape the unrelenting grip of his mother-in-law. This isn't just a tale of escape. It's a journey through fear, deception, and the fight for freedom. Stay with us as we unravel every twist and turn of this incredible story. There are moments in life when reality blurs, when the line between truth and illusion disappears so completely that even the people closest to you can't tell the difference. This story begins at such a moment. It begins with a man who chose to vanish from the world, not because he wanted to die, but because the life he lived was worse than death itself. He faked his own death, all to escape one relentless force: his mother-in-law. Michael Turner's name might not mean much to most people, but his story echoes the darkest corners of human desperation. He wasn't a criminal, nor a fugitive. He was an ordinary man. A husband, a father, a son, caught in a nightmare that no one would believe if they heard it. The kind of nightmare born not from horror movies or twisted novels, but from the shadows of family, the place where we expect love and safety. Michael was born and raised in a small, unremarkable town in the Midwest. Life there was simple, predictable, and in many ways safe. But from the moment he married Anna, the woman he loved, everything changed. Not because Anna was difficult or cruel, far from it, but because Anna's mother, Eleanor, was something else entirely. She was a force of nature disguised as a family member, a woman whose presence turned the warmth of a home into a cold battlefield. Eleanor was the kind of mother-in-law who didn't just interfere. She controlled, manipulated, and dictated every aspect of Michael's life. From how he dressed to whom he spoke, from the way he spent his weekends to the career choices he made, Eleanor was always there, lurking, judging, tightening her grip like a noose. But her cruelty was subtle, masked by social smiles and polite conversations, so that outsiders would never suspect the suffocating cage Michael lived in. For years, Michael endured. At first, he told himself it was love for Anna, for the family they were building. But the more Eleanor's shadow grew, the more Michael felt himself shrinking, losing the man he once was. Every attempt to break free was met with cold fury, accusations whispered behind closed doors, and a tightening web of emotional torture. Anna, blinded by her devotion to her mother, refused to see the truth, often defending Eleanor's harsh words as motherly concern. But Michael's breaking point came one cold autumn night, during a dinner that should have been filled with laughter and celebration. Instead, it exploded into chaos. Eleanor accused Michael of failing as a husband, a provider, a man. Her words were venomous, cutting deeper than any blade. When Michael finally stood up, his voice shaking with years of pain and fear, Eleanor's face twisted into a terrifying sneer. The confrontation ended with slamming doors and shattered silence. That night, alone in the darkness, Michael made a choice that would change everything. He realized that if he stayed, his life would be a slow death, a life stripped of hope, freedom, and dignity. So he began to plan. A plan so extreme, so desperate, that it would fool everyone, even Anna. He would disappear. Not just run away, but vanish completely. He would fake his death. It wasn't easy. Months passed in secrecy. He researched, plotted, and rehearsed. He forged documents, staged scenarios, and prepared a scene so convincing it would leave no room for doubt. The night came when he left a note, a message filled with words that broke Anna's heart, but spared her the harsh truth. Then he vanished. The story told to the world was tragic but believable. Michael Turner had died in a car accident on a lonely stretch of road, his body unrecognizable after the flames consumed the wreckage. The town mourned. Friends gathered. Tears fell. Anna was inconsolable. Eleanor wore a mask of grief, but behind her eyes flickered something else: relief, maybe even triumph. But the truth was darker and stranger than anyone imagined. Michael was alive, hiding in the shadows, watching the world mourn a man who was still breathing. The freedom he had fought for came with a price: isolation, fear, and the constant danger of being discovered. Every day was a battle. not just to survive, but to hold on to the fragile hope of a new life. Yet, even in his solitude, Michael's thoughts were never far from Anna, the woman he loved but couldn't protect. The woman trapped between a controlling mother and a disappearing husband. Could she ever forgive the lie? Could she understand why he had to choose death, even if it was only on paper, to save his own soul? This is the beginning of Michael's story, a story of desperation and courage, of escape and survival, a story that will unravel the dark secrets of family bonds twisted into chains. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear is a journey into the heart of human resilience, and the terrible cost of freedom when the ones who should protect us become our greatest threat. Freedom is a word many dream of but few truly understand, especially when it comes at the cost of becoming a ghost in your own life. For Michael Turner, the man who faked his death to escape the unrelenting grip of his mother-in-law Eleanor, freedom was a fragile, elusive thing wrapped in shadows. Shadows of fear, loneliness, and relentless danger. The moment Michael vanished, the world around him didn't pause. His friends mourned, his wife Anna shattered, and Eleanor wore her mask of grief with a smile only a few could see through. But for Michael, everything changed. His old life, with its rules, its routines, its suffocating expectations, was gone, replaced by something far darker. He was now a man living in exile, not by choice but by necessity. At first, the weeks were unbearable. Michael couldn't reach out to Anna or any familiar faces. Even the smallest mistake, an unexpected call, a wrong move, could unravel the entire facade. He moved from motel to motel, lived off savings painstakingly accumulated over years, always careful to avoid cameras and prying eyes. Every day was a battle to remain invisible. Every noise, every shadow seemed like a threat. The isolation was suffocating, a prison without walls. The psychological torment was far worse than the physical hardships. Michael was haunted by guilt that gnawed at his soul. He thought constantly about Anna, her tear-streaked face, the way her voice broke when she called out his name in disbelief, the prayers she whispered in the dark for his soul to be safe. Was it selfish to escape? Was it right to leave everything behind, even if it meant her suffering? These questions tormented him relentlessly. Meanwhile, Eleanor's reaction to Michael's death was chilling in its coldness. No secret relief, no quiet regret. Her calm exterior barely concealed the triumph gleaming in her eyes. Michael had been her biggest obstacle, the man standing between her and the control she craved over Anna's life. With him gone, Eleanor's influence grew stronger by the day. She moved swiftly to tighten her grip, suffocating Anna under layers of manipulation disguised as motherly advice. She isolated Anna from friends and family, planting seeds of doubt about Michael, twisting truths to deepen the wounds left by his absence. Yet, even Eleanor's iron grip began to show signs of strain. Anna, crushed beneath grief, slowly started to question the story she had accepted without doubt. The silence in her home was deafening. The absence of Michael carved a hollow ache in her heart that no words could fill. She noticed things: inconsistencies in the official accident report, Eleanor's increasingly controlling behavior, the lack of closure. The walls of her reality started to crack. Whispers began circulating among friends and family. Was Michael really dead? Why were there no photos of the accident? Why was there no funeral? Strange rumors brewed in hushed tones. Some suggested foul play. Others whispered that Michael had never died at all. The mystery deepened, casting a shadow of suspicion over everything Eleanor said. Michael, from his place in the shadows, was painfully aware of the swirling rumors. He had to remain hidden, yet part of him longed to reach out, to comfort Anna, to explain why he did what he did. But the risk was too great. His disappearance was a lifeline, fragile, delicate, and easily severed. In his solitude, Michael began to rebuild himself piece by piece. He took odd jobs under different names, altered his appearance, and forged a new identity. But the scars from his old life never faded. Every face in a crowd held the possibility of being Anna's. Every unexpected sound was a warning. Freedom came with a price, constant vigilance and a crushing loneliness. Then, one day, Michael learned Eleanor's plan. She intended to move Anna thousands of miles away, to a place where Michael could never contact her. The thought broke him. It wasn't about control anymore. It was fear of losing Anna forever to the woman who had already taken so much. If Michael wanted to protect Anna, he realized he would have to confront Eleanor on his terms. Gathering information became his new mission. Using discreet contacts, stolen scraps of news, and careful observation, Michael pieced together Eleanor's moves. He knew that simply reappearing would be disastrous. The world he had left was a trap. Eleanor was the real enemy, the one holding Anna captive. Michael's fight was no longer just for himself. It was for Anna, for the family they had tried to build, and for a future that seemed increasingly fragile. Old friendships reached out tentatively, some suspicious, some hopeful. Anna's rare, guarded messages conveyed pain and confusion, challenging Michael's resolve. How could he reveal himself without destroying everything? How could he shatter the cage Eleanor had built without harming the delicate threads holding Anna together? Michael's journey was far from over. His fake death was just the prologue to a story of betrayal, sacrifice, and the desperate struggle for freedom. The battles ahead would test his notions of family, loyalty, and self. He would be forced to confront the darkest parts of himself and the hardest truths about those he loved. This story is only just beginning, and the next chapters will challenge everything you thought you knew about love, control, and what it truly means to be free. Michael Turner's existence had become a delicate, exhausting balancing act, caught between two irreconcilable worlds. On one side was the life he had abandoned, the family he had loved, and the home he had sworn to protect. On the other was the shadowed existence he was forced to inhabit, an existence cloaked in silence, fear, and constant vigilance. Each day began with a quiet dread. Waking up in dingy motel rooms, rented apartments, sometimes cramped spaces where anonymity was a fragile shield, Michael confronted the harsh truth. Freedom was a double-edged sword. It granted escape from one nightmare but delivered him into another. Loneliness, isolation, and the ever-present terror of discovery. Gone were the familiar streets, the laughter of friends, and the warmth of Anna's embrace. Instead, there were endless nights filled with silence, the only company his swirling thoughts and memories that refused to let him be. Every breath felt like a battle, every movement a calculated risk. He had become a ghost, unseen, unheard, but ever watching. The most brutal fight was not with those outside but with the man he saw in the mirror. Doubt gnawed at him endlessly. Had he done the right thing? Could he ever return? Would Anna forgive him if she ever knew the truth? He was haunted by images of her tear-streaked face, her voice breaking as she whispered his name in disbelief, her prayers for his soul whispered in the dead of night. Selfishness? Cowardice? Or the desperate act of a man pushed beyond his limits? These questions tormented him relentlessly. His heart ached for the simple life he once dreamed of, a life filled with peace, love, and belonging. Yet now he was a fugitive in his own skin, constantly fleeing from ghosts, both real and imagined. The shadows of fear and regret clung to him like a second skin, threatening to consume what little hope remained. Meanwhile, Eleanor's transformation into a relentless tyrant was complete. From afar, Michael witnessed the tightening web she wove around Anna. Eleanor isolated her daughter from friends and family, spreading whispered lies and twisted truths to turn everyone against him. The woman who had once been a mother-in-law had become a merciless puppeteer, pulling every string with ruthless precision. Anna's world grew smaller by the day. Invitations stopped coming, calls went unanswered, and the walls closed in like a cage. But beneath the surface, Anna's spirit stirred with quiet defiance. There were signs, unsent letters, fleeting phone calls abruptly ended, a friend's whispered concern about changes in her voice. These fragile sparks were threads Michael desperately clung to. He understood that to save Anna, to reclaim the life they had envisioned, He could no longer remain hidden. He had to confront Eleanor, face the past he fled, and fight with every ounce of strength left within him. Gathering allies was his next mission. He reached out cautiously to old friends, wary but willing to help, and forged new connections with those who understood the stakes. Each piece of intelligence, secret meetings, whispered plans, veiled threats, formed a map guiding him through Eleanor's labyrinth of control. Trust, however, was a dangerous game. Betrayal lurked in every shadow, and one wrong move could shatter everything. Anna's safety, Michael's freedom, and the fragile hope tethering them. One cold, sleepless night, Michael gazed at a photograph he kept hidden. Anna's bright eyes full of hope, her smile untouched by the darkness surrounding them. The pain was sharp, but so was his resolve. No longer would he be a ghost slipping through cracks. It was time to fight. Slowly, cautiously, plans took shape. Michael began sending coded messages, reaching out to Anna without alerting Eleanor. He sought protectors within her circle, people who could shield her and pave the way to freedom. Every day was a gamble, every moment a test. But beneath the fear burned a stubborn flame, the belief that love, even battered by betrayal and darkness, could endure. Michael's story had evolved. It was no longer just about escape. It had become a battle for redemption, for reclaiming a life stolen by lies and fear. A battle against invisible enemies, both without and within, and the chance to rewrite the story of a man who dared to fake his own death for a second chance at life. But the path ahead was perilous. Eleanor was ruthless, cunning, and desperate to maintain control. She had no intention of letting Anna, or Michael's memory, slip away. Michael knew the risks. He could lose everything. The woman he loved, his own life, and the fragile hope that kept him going. But he also knew that running had brought him nothing but solitude and sorrow. To truly live again, he had to confront his past, face the darkness, and fight. And so, armed with nothing but determination and love, Michael prepared for the hardest battle of his life, the fight to reclaim not just his life, but Anna's freedom, and the future they both deserved. The night was heavy with anticipation, the air thick with a mixture of fear, hope, and the raw electricity of a life-changing moment. Michael Turner sat alone in a small, dimly lit room, the faint hum of distant city noises filtering through cracked windows. His hands trembled ever so slightly as they held the worn photograph of Anna, her eyes bright but burdened, her smile fragile yet fiercely hopeful. For years, this image had been his anchor, a beacon that refused to dim no matter how dark the nights became. Tonight, that beacon was about to guide a desperate escape, one that would either shatter them or set them free. Every inch of Michael's body pulsed with tension. The months spent weaving a web of secrecy, building trust with allies, and decoding Eleanor's ruthless patterns had led to this single moment. The fight to reclaim Anna's freedom was no longer a distant dream but an urgent reality, one fraught with danger, risk, and the daunting knowledge that failure meant losing everything. Eleanor's control over Anna had evolved into a fortress of psychological tyranny. She was no longer the mother-in-law who merely meddled. She was a merciless jailer who twisted love into chains, fear into loyalty, and truth into lies. Over the years, Eleanor had systematically dismantled Anna's support system, isolating her from friends and family, poisoning relationships with venomous whispers, and planting seeds of doubt about Michael that took root deep in Anna's heart. Michael understood that breaking through this invisible prison would require far more than physical escape. It was a battle for Anna's mind and soul, a painstaking dismantling of the years of manipulation and control. To succeed, he had to be patient, strategic, and unwavering. For months, Michael had sent Anna coded messages hidden in innocuous conversations, small gestures of love disguised so carefully that Eleanor's keen eyes would miss them. These messages became lifelines for Anna, rekindling sparks of hope amid a suffocating darkness. They reminded her of a man who was still fighting for her, even from the shadows. The allies Michael gathered were a patchwork of old friends who still believed in him, strangers moved by his plight, and professionals skilled in navigating the treacherous waters of psychological captivity. Each new piece of information, Eleanor's schedules, her security measures, and her plan to relocate Anna to an even more remote place, was a crucial thread in the tapestry of their escape plan. Meanwhile, inside her cage, Anna battled a tempest of conflicting emotions. Her heart ached with love for Michael but was shackled by fear and loyalty imposed by Eleanor's relentless influence. Every tentative step towards freedom was a fierce internal struggle, the terrifying unknown versus the grim familiarity of captivity. The psychological wounds ran deep, their healing an arduous journey in its own right. Eleanor's desperation became palpable as she sensed the shifting winds. Her response was brutal and swift. She cut off Anna's remaining contacts with the outside world, issued threats veiled in honeyed words, and turned every interaction into a loyalty test designed to crush any flicker of rebellion. Her fury was a storm that threatened to engulf them all. The night chosen for escape was meticulously planned, every moment choreographed with the precision of a finely tuned clock. Safe houses were secured, transportation arranged, and contingencies put in place for every conceivable complication. The smallest misstep could mean disaster. Anna, torn between terror and hope, steeled herself. The decision to leave was more than physical. It was the act of reclaiming her identity, her agency, and her future. She understood that crossing the threshold from prisoner to free woman would not erase the years of pain, but it was a start. Under the cloak of darkness, guided by Michael's trusted allies, Anna slipped away. The air was thick with silence and danger. Every shadow seemed a threat. Every footstep could betray them. Eleanor's discovery of Anna's absence unleashed a torrent of rage. Venomous phone calls, frantic attempts to track them down, and psychological assaults aimed at breaking Anna's resolve. But Michael and Anna moved forward with determined hearts. The exhilaration of freedom was tempered by the heavy knowledge of what lay ahead. The scars Eleanor left ran deep, and healing was just beginning. Legal battles loomed large as Eleanor fought to regain control through courts and manipulation. Michael and Anna faced the daunting task of rebuilding a life fractured by years of control and lies. Therapy sessions, late-night conversations, and mutual reassurance formed the new foundation of their relationship. Though the path was arduous, their love endured and deepened. Every day outside Eleanor's shadow was a victory. Every small step toward normalcy, a triumph of the human spirit over darkness. Michael's choice to fake his death was the catalyst for a profound transformation. Not just an escape, but a fight for redemption, freedom, and the chance to live a life unshackled by fear. Together, Michael and Anna stared into an uncertain future. Challenges awaited, but so did hope. Their story, forged in fire and shadow, was far from over. It was just beginning. Thanks for watching and joining us on this incredible journey. If this story moved you or caught your attention, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming next. Share your thoughts or similar stories in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.